Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. June is already here. Football season will be here soon enough. That means it's time for you to be thinking about a new home theater room in your house. Basketball season right behind that, NCAA tournament, on and on and on. If you want the full, spectacular home experience, big screen, surround sound, fully automated system, the guys to do it are JJ Surlis and Safety Systems. Call our VFL buddy and call them this week. See what they can do for you. And certainly if you're building a home right now, get your contractor in touch with Safety Systems. Do it all up front. That's the way to go, man. Safety Systems. All right. If you need recruiting, here's the way to go, man. It's Ryan Callahan. Ryan, of course, covers recruiting for GoVols 24/7. Tennessee had a big week this past week. It was a huge weekend last week with people on campus, and then they actually got some news during the week. So I want to let you run through the key gains, then we'll come back and talk about the areas they still need to work at. But let's go to the list, and we'll kind of go to the list and back to Ryan, and the list and back to Ryan. All right. First name on the list, Ryan. I'll let you pronounce it.
Francis Mauingoa, and this is a fairly new addition to the list of realistic targets for Tennessee, but a guy they've been pursuing for a long time. And after we talked about how this might help Tennessee, the addition of Nico Iamaleava, the five-star quarterback commitment, this is one of those connections that has helped Tennessee get in the mix for Mauingoa. His first time on campus last weekend, already planned to take an official visit to Tennessee at the end of this month, the weekend of June 24th. So that one, Tennessee has very quickly become one of the teams to beat. I would say maybe the slight favorite right now, but that was a big visit for Tennessee, and they obviously made a move getting him on campus for the first time. Now got to get his family back in town.
Big move for a five-star. While we're talking about five-stars, let's go back to the list. You got another one there, Shandavian, or is it Sean Davian? Shandavian Bradley.
Shandavian Bradley from the Kansas City area. Not a place you see Tennessee recruit a lot, but Tennessee had been high on his list, I think, for a while, and he had been pretty excited about that offer when he got it back in February, and finally visited. And I think Tennessee led probably going into the visit realistically, but that visit really put Tennessee on top. And I think he's still a guy that wants to wait a little while, take more visits. He hasn't taken any official visits yet, but Tennessee, coming off that first weekend in Knoxville, I think really made a move, and the Vols are probably the team to beat for another, at least in the 24/7 Sports Composite, another five-star prospect.
All right, let's take another look here. We've got Tamarion,
I believe. Yep.
Tamarion Parker.
Tamarion Parker.
I'd really love for them to recruit a Joe Smith. But Tamarion Parker, four-star.
Yeah, and this is that.
Why don't we run through both these defensive linemen?
Yeah,
back to back here.
They have some things in common too. Both these guys, Hunter Osborne from Alabama, along with Tamarion Parker, and they're part of a really loaded class in the state of Alabama. So the reason Tennessee's maybe got a chance to make a move here, Alabama can't take all these guys. There's so many good players in the state of Alabama this year, and so many defensive linemen in particular, that Tennessee is not, or is one of the teams positioned to maybe take advantage of that. Hunter Osborne in particular made a move with that one. I think kind of out of the blue on that one. I don't think a lot of people thought Tennessee was the team to beat, but they are at least one of the teams to beat now. And then Tamarion Parker flat out named Tennessee his leader coming off that visit last weekend. So the fact that Tennessee's got that much of a shot, two guys highly ranked from Alabama, pretty impressive.
Let me interrupt here just for a second. Do you think these guys would all be chasing Tennessee? And look, this is not to say Tennessee's doing anything wrong. This would be taking advantage of the new rules. But would you expect all these 4s and 5 stars to have Tennessee so high on their list if it weren't for NIL right now?
They would be. I think they would be potentially in it for some of these guys. I think the NIL factors at least playing into Tennessee's involvement. I don't think it's hurting for sure.
Good for Spire Sports in Tennessee. It's the rules, so play with it. Let's go back to the list here. All right. Lucas Simmons, let's cover both these while they're up since they're both offensive line. The guy in blue, he's in there in blue because he's part of the 2022 group.
Yeah.
But I'll let you run through these two guys for us.
Yeah, so Lucas Simmons, he's originally from Sweden, actually, playing in Clearwater, Florida right now, moved to the U.S. less than a year ago to pursue a future in football and has become a pretty highly ranked, coveted guy. Tennessee battling USC, Florida, and Florida State for him as he prepares to take official visits to those schools over the next few weeks. Tennessee got the first official visit among those main contenders, and I think they really made a move, but got to weather the storm with those few remaining visits. One connection, his dad, Abel Simmons, played at Oklahoma when Josh Heupel and Billy Ray Johnson, who's on Tennessee staff, were at Oklahoma, so that familiar history there maybe gives Tennessee a better chance. Savion Herring, this addition to the 2022 class, maybe caught some people off guard this week, especially because he projects likely as an interior guy on the offensive line, not a tackle, and a lot of people see tackle as Tennessee's biggest need. I think this is a case where they've got room to fill some spots spots on the roster, and he's just a late rising guy because it didn't look like in February he might have the grades to get out of junior college this year. Suddenly he did. About a dozen schools offered this spring, including Missouri, and then South Carolina and Kentucky and Nebraska all showed interest as well. Battled Tennessee for that final visit. So Tennessee gets his final visit, gets him on campus midweek, and next thing you know, he's committed to Tennessee and planning to arrive on campus at least by early this week to start classes on Thursday. So came together quickly, but Tennessee adds some help and some depth to the offensive line, most likely. Not an immediate starter, but a guy who could at least compete for a starting job by next year.
Okay, let's talk about needs moving forward. We're at the end of the segment, so let's be quick on this. Let's go ahead and put your list up. Here's what they need to focus on moving forward.
Defensive line, obviously this is one Tennessee's kind of kicked the can down the road for a few years. Got to hit that position a little bit heavier this year. They've looked at the transfer portal a couple years in a row. Can't keep doing that. Cornerback, they've got a couple safeties in this class right now, but not any projected cornerbacks. The good news for them, they're in good shape with some, including Christian Conyer from Bowling Green, Kentucky, who's a Tennessee-Kentucky battle right now. I think Tennessee probably leads. Offensive line, Tennessee continuing to build back depth at that position. Only one commitment really at that position right now, but still a couple guys that they're in good shape with, including Mauingoa that we mentioned earlier. Wide receiver, that's a position Tennessee addressed pretty heavily in the 2022 class. Got to keep looking for the future there with Cedric Tillman presumably on the way out. And then running back, they obviously had to look around, got a couple guys in that class, but had some defections this season. Now you've got to build back the depth. Only 5 scholarship running backs right now at that position. So you need to find at least one good one in this class, if not 2.
Good job, Ryan. There's a reason that when you see the recruiting guys, they're usually 30s, 40s, because old guys like me could never remember all those names. That was impressive. That was very impressive. This is just our schedule of what we're talking about today. There's not a note in front of him. Very impressive. All right, when we come back, let's talk Tennessee basketball. We'll give you a roster update. One group says, and one publication says Tennessee's a top 10 team. One says, no, they're just top 20. Which is it? They're closer to top 10 or closer to top 20? We'll discuss. Come on back on the Sports Source.